What's up, Raiders? Coops here. Welcome to the video. Today I wanted to share some tips from my experience as a solo raider when it comes to PvP, ranging from how to prepare for it, how to avoid it, and how to engage with it when it inevitably comes to find you. And to get us started, we're going to take a look at this clip together.
You can say just about everything you need to. You're making me nervous, pal.
Okay, so let's rewatch this clip with the power of hindsight. I come down, I announce myself as friendly. He says don't shoot. He also says thank you. So I'm getting some communication from this other player, non-verbally, because he's not on mic. Then we're standing here together waiting for the train to arrive. I'm talking about how cool it is that people can communicate without needing a mic in this game. And then I notice that he takes out a weapon. Okay, I look over my shoulder to kind of see, is there an arc enemy or somebody else coming from that direction? There isn't. Now he's aiming his gun. I'm telling him I'm feeling a bit nervous. I'm constantly moving, I'm not standing in one spot, and I'm ready at this point. If things are going to pop off, I'm going to see it coming. I'm going to be prepared for it, and I'm able to get the better of him. Now, these warning signs aren't always going to be this clear and this distinct. It might just be that you put a little too much trust in another player and they end up shooting you in the back when they have the opportunity. But some of the things that I wanted to touch on today are kind of simple things.
Cool down there?
Like, my number one tip is just going to be trust your gut.
Cool if you're cool.
I'm somebody who, when I'm playing Arc Raiders, I'm almost always on mic. So I'm always interacting with other players. Even if I just hear somebody nearby, I might call out to them and say, hey, Raider, I'm close by, don't want to startle you, just to kind of help put people at ease. But sometimes people aren't on mic. Sometimes they'll use that information to their advantage, and they'll try to, attack you because of it. And so even by doing so, just trusting your gut is going to go a long way. And some of this is just building up experience. I'm somebody who spent a lot of time playing DayZ. DayZ and Arc Raiders have some similarities, some parallels in the way that the game is played, in the sense that there are other player interactions, and sometimes you might involuntarily team up with another player in order to, accomplish a specific objective, but they might also turn on you. They might use the fact that they now know that you're close by to hunt you down and to take your loot, and that's part of the game. So again, just because I'm somebody who typically extends a helping hand rather than taking advantage of a situation doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's coming from that same perspective, right? But I just feel like that's important to understand as a baseline of where I'm coming from with these tips, because like I said, a lot of this is about preparing yourself, possibly avoiding PvP, and then when things do go south, knowing how to handle yourself in those sorts of situations. So being able to communicate goes a long way, whether it's using a mic in proximity chat or it's using the emote or communication wheel. You can toggle your flashlight, you can crouch up and down, you can put your weapon away. There are several different things that you can do as a player to kind of control the situation and let other people know that you don't mean any sort of threat to them. But paying attention to your surroundings is also going to be something that can really go a long way. If you notice that there are doors open, if you notice that there's loot on the ground, if you notice that there's dead arc nearby, that might all be an indicator that somebody is still in the area, and to just kind of keep your wits about you. Knowing when to holster your weapon is also an important thing to kind of have a grasp of. Just because you don't have your weapon out doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to treat you politely, right? And so while it might be advantageous to put your weapon away so that you can run a little bit faster, I find myself 90% of the time with my weapon in hand, unless I'm specifically trying to get somewhere quickly, like I'm trying to catch the last train and I need that little added, boost of speed. I almost always have my weapon out. And I don't think that that means that you're immediately hostile. So keep that in mind as well. Just because you have your gun in your hand doesn't mean that you're a threat to another player, but not having your gun in your hand might make you an easy target to someone else. And then you also have the added layer of the arc being nearby, and so not having a gun out, you might get attacked by arc, and then it takes you a little bit longer to react to that situation. So those are some things to kind of keep in mind. And another thing that I've found is that pretty much 9 times out of 10, if somebody's going to shoot you, they're going to shoot you in the back. So keeping your head on a swivel, look over your shoulder every once in a while, maybe every 20 or 30 seconds. Just kind of being aware of your surroundings in a general sense is going to go a long way for you, especially if you're somebody who's not necessarily looking to engage in PvP. If you're looking to avoid it, then just kind of being mindful of where you are, who's nearby, different things like that can certainly help you out.
Man. No need for all that.
But what happens when PvP finds you? So the first thing I want to say here is stay cool. Keep a cool head, keep calm, try to understand the situation. Where are you getting shot from? Do you have a chance to react? If you've already taken some damage, do you have a chance to heal up or to use your shields? Is it worth talking the situation out? This is an example here happening in the background. Somebody started shooting at me, they missed, and I started a conversation with them. And we're, at this point, we're just kind of laughing about the fact that they weren't able to hit me when I was standing still, and so they should really just kind of go off on their own and leave me be. And so it didn't necessarily have to turn into a gunfight just because somebody shot my way. No harm, no foul, There was an opportunity for us to just kind of make peace, go on our own way, and I think that there's something kind of rewarding about that. So taking a second to kind of see if you can talk down the situation, it might not always be worth it, but it might be, it might save you from dying in a gunfight. So just kind of keep that in mind. But if you can't talk down the situation, if you do have to engage, then being mindful of your cover, getting into a good position where maybe they have to push you rather than you having to push them, knowing where your healing items are, so that's a big one. I typically always have my bandages in the same spot, and I have my shield rechargers in the same spot when it comes to my loadout. So knowing where those are and how to get to them easily so that you're not fumbling around, that's super important. But also knowing that once you've used a bandage or once you've used a shield recharger, there is a little bit of like a cooldown window, right? Because the bandage has to start healing your health. You can't just spam bandages and you can't just spam shield rechargers. So knowing that there is a little bit of a downtime before you can continue to use those items is super important. Don't just overcommit to doing something that's not going to be beneficial for you. You can probably get a quick heal off, you could probably get a quick shield recharge off, but then afterwards you need to kind of prepare yourself, get ready, think about what angle you might have on them. Can you move to cover? Is it worth it to just kind of try to tuck and run? Maybe you don't feel like you want to take that gunfight, or you think that you can get away from them. Whatever it might be, use that to your advantage. Another thing that I want to share that I find is very common amongst people who are looking to actively engage in PvP is that they oftentimes don't have a mic, and so they're not willing to communicate with you if you do try to, talk to them, extend an olive branch, whatever it might be. And a lot of times they're using a free loadout. And so keeping this in mind, we don't necessarily want to over-assume anything, but keeping this in mind, we do have a little bit of information to work off of in some of these situations. If we notice that somebody is using maybe a low-tier weapon, something like a rattler, kettle, even just a stitcher, and we notice that after they've unloaded their magazine,
Never noticed them before.
that they aren't swapping to a different weapon, then we can use that information to our advantage. It means that they likely have a free loadout, that they likely only have one weapon on them, and so there will be some downtime when they're reloading their weapon. Especially if they have a weapon like a Rattler, which takes a long time to reload. If they don't do enough damage to you, they're going to be kind of, sitting there for a second, reloading their weapon before they can continue the gunfight. But also just knowing that, like, hey, maybe they've only got a Pharaoh. The Pharaoh's going to hit us hard, but there's a lot of downtime in between their shots. And so we can use that sort of information to our advantage. But beyond that, they might have limited medical supplies. They might not have very many shield rechargers. They might have low ammunition, different things like that. So we can kind of keep all of these sorts of things in mind when it comes to the various situations that we might get into. And again, this is not to say that people who engage in PvP aren't coming in prepared with their own custom loadout, with weapons that they know are going to be effective against other raiders. It's just that what I've found, especially early on here, is that a lot of times I do run into people who engage in PvP. They do just have a free loadout on them. And so that's something that we can kind of use to our advantage.
Thought we were friendly. Thought we were friendly.
Oh, I deserve that.
Yeah, you do, man. What the heck? Why? Why? Why do we do that?
And so with that in mind, now we can kind of take a look at the other side of the coin, which is knowing your own loadout. So typically, I'll come in to a raid with two weapons. One always uses heavy ammo so that I can take care of arc, whether it be a Pharaoh or an anvil. And then my second weapon is typically something with light ammo that fires fast, that's good at dealing with PvP situations. Personally, I like the Stitcher. It's really easy to get the Stitcher to level 3, and you can also add pretty cheap attachments to it. So that's one of my go-to weapons, but you might get a blueprint for a gun that you really like, maybe something like the Berletta that you're comfortable with, and you can take that in place of it. Really, it's going to be figuring out what makes the most sense for you and what you're the most comfortable with. But it's really important not to overlook upgrading your weapons and outfitting them with different attachments. Even something simple like a Pharaoh can become a distinctly different weapon if you spend the resources to upgrade it to level 3. Same thing with the Stitcher. You're improving the rate of fire, you're improving the reload speed, you're improving the weapon's durability, you're improving its accuracy. All of these different factors come into play, and just spending the extra bit of scrap to do so can be the difference between life and death sometimes.
You can keep your damn Rattler.
Now, I'm somebody who doesn't typically like the Rattler, but I have had some success with the Rattler when I have it upgraded to level 3, when I have a couple of different attachments for it. And I've also had some success with the Rattler when I run 2 Rattlers, which is kind of strange. It's a little bit counterintuitive. But having 2 of the same gun means that I just have to worry about one type of ammo. And so I just bring extra medium ammo with me. And then when one of the Rattlers runs dry, instead of reloading that gun, I can switch to my backup Rattler and then unload that weapon and then take the downtime altogether to reload both of those weapons when I can. So it just kind of takes a little bit of time to get used to the different weapons, your own personal preferences, but knowing your loadout, being comfortable and confident with it, is, again, it's just going to go a long way when PvP does tend to find you. So in the background here, I've got an example of where I'm reaching out to another player. I'm saying, hey, I hear that you're nearby. I'm letting you know that I'm nearby. I just heard you come down the zip line. I'm over here to your right. I even go as far as to tell him what direction I'm at to kind of communicate with him, because from my perspective, he's not necessarily immediately a threat,
I have
but
a
then
defibrillator
obviously
here,
as he approaches
but I
me,
don't think I'm gonna
the
use it on
situation
you.
changes,
Why would I do
you know,
that?
pretty
I
quickly,
tried having
pretty
a
rapidly.
conversation.
It goes from
I was
being a
gonna
friendly
offer to
encounter
let you into
to
the
being a
meeting room that
hostile
I
one.
have in my
And
safe
so being
pocket
prepared for that,
and
knowing your
everything.
loadout, being comfortable
But
and
now I can't
confident with
trust
it
you.
is going to be one of those things that's going to keep you alive and then hopefully make you just a better player so that you can have more fun with the game in the long term. PvP is going to happen. It's a natural part of the game. It's there for a reason. It adds to the dynamicism and the tense feeling that you get when you're playing a game like Arc Raiders. It's a vital part of the experience. So don't feel upset when somebody
That
comes
wasn't cool what
after
you
you
just did,
and
pal.
wants to take your
Hold on if you
stuff
can,
or
man.
just wants to shoot another person, because eventually, as this game
Yeah, the police is
progresses,
coming.
as this game gets older,
Police is coming
we're
for
going
your
to
ass.
come across these moments where things are going to kind of plateau for some players. Some players are going to kind of reach the end game. They're going to get to the point where they've completed all of their quest
Yeah, that's what I
objectives.
thought, pal.
They've done
That's what I
all of
thought.
the things that they need to upgrade their workbenches and complete their expeditions. They're going to have gotten a ton of blueprints for so many different weapons and so many different gadgets that they're going to get to a point where they kind of reach the final frontier of Arc Raiders before an expedition happens and a potential voluntary wipe happens, where they don't really have much else to do but to chase fun engagements. Whether that's, teaming up with people during a raid or going and looking for PvP, we can't villainize these people for engaging with the game. We personally might not necessarily
Well,
actively seek PvP,
did you think
but
the
it
door
doesn't
was
mean
locked from the
that
outside?
it's not something that we should be fully prepared for and understand that it's going to happen. And so it's better to just kind of accept
I'll
that
help you
and get
up.
used to
I'll
it
help you up if
than it is
bygones
to
be
complain
bygones.
about
I'll
it.
help you up. I'm gonna go
So
my separate
hopefully
way.
these have been some helpful tips for you along
Right on,
the
right
way for all of your future adventures.
Yeah.
I have been and always will be
It's all good.
Coobs. Thanks so much for being
Be
here.
safe out there, man.
Peace and love, Raiders.